Hey guys, Steve here. Today we're going to be looking at the Konig, the Tier 4 German Battleship. Got a map on New Dawn here. Capture the base mode game. You can see my Von Hipper build at the moment. Currently I'm using Celiax as slot number 2. I know a lot of times I haven't recommended using AP boost on battleships, but I find for these German ones tends to work a little bit better just because the damage tends to be a little bit lower. That's an early build. I got a lot of experimenting to do with Von Hipper, but we'll cover him more in the future. So Konig, we spawn on the south side here, kind of on the wing. Usually battleships are going to perform the best towards the center of the map, and I don't have a lot of support over here anyways, so my intention is just to kind of sail north and kind of take more of a centralized position from there. Now the Konig, it's a Tier 4 battleship. I don't tend to really like Tier 4 battleships too much. It doesn't seem to be on the worst end of the spectrum, though. The guns are the lowest caliber at the tier. You have 305s compared to 343s on the Iron Duke and 356s across the other ships on the tier. Pretty good range. I got 16.6 in my build. Just shy of the Congo at 17, but longer range of the other ones. But because of the low pen, or the low caliber, you're going to have a tough time penetrating some of these battleships. So you want to prioritize cruisers with this ship, and then look for broadside targets, battleships. If you're going to be shooting battleships, you need to understand armor schemes. Like a Congo is pretty weakly armored, so you could potentially shoot for citadels on that one. More heavily armored ships like the New York, or especially if you're bottom tier and you're going against like New Mexico's and ships on tier 5, you're going to be wanting to be shooting a little bit higher up, top of the ship, superstructure, that kind of stuff. So here we do have I think this is a tier 3 French cruiser. These things I'm still getting a little bit of a hang of shooting against. They seem to be going pretty fast. I think that's kind of the national kind of trait of the French cruisers, is pretty speedy. So going to want to take a little bit more aim than you might be normally inclined to. And you'll notice we do have that enemy Congo trailing me. I'm perfectly fine having, kiting away from him. And you'll see we end up doing that for quite a bit of the match. Congo, very inaccurate ship. Those of you that have played it can be fairly frustrating in that regard. But the guns can deliver quite a punch, so rather than dealing with him, and we only noticed one other ship spawn down there, so I'm assuming there might be that DD on the team as well, which I don't want to be dealing with close range in the Konig either, so I'm just fine kind of putting some distance in between me and him. Now the Konig does have a 26-second reload of my build, which is quite a bit faster. Like Congo's 30, Iron Duke 30, 33.8 on my New York, so that's one more sort of advantage that the ship does have, able to put out a few more rounds per match. Now here this Wakeful does pop up behind us. This was kind of what I was half expecting. I don't know the Wakeful's torp distance by heart or anything, but because I'm sailing away from him, I don't think there's much of a torp risk. Usually these low tier cruise or destroyers can't torp very far, and when you're sailing away from destroyers, that adds like 2-3 kilometers to the range just because they have to travel farther to meet your ship. So sailing away from destroyers, especially as a battleship, is usually your best bet. And we are getting a little bit of support fire. Secondaries are going off. The secondaries aren't, Bismarck-esque on the ship, but they are pretty decent for the tier, they seem. So do have a little bit of support from them, and we're just going to continue to put our ship in a position to take shots at this guy. But that does kind of go to the heart of analyzing your enemy's team right off the bat and just kind of identifying potential threats. Like had we sailed toward that the Congo to duel him one-on-one, that destroyer would have had a much easier time torping us. So as more and more ships pop up on the enemy's team, you're able to get further information along that. Now he does get a torp salvo off, but we're able to angle successfully and minimize that threat. Now here's this Emily Burton or whatever it's called broadside. Again, I'm trying to take a little bit more aim, and he gone. So So those French cruisers, I'm assuming most of them, at least the lower tiers, are pretty lightly armored. They're probably quite glass. I'm only on tier 2 French cruisers so far. I haven't had a lot of time to try them out yet, but you know, you're not going to be wanting to point broadsides at people. That's just kind of cruiser 101, and I think that's going to be amplified with the French line. Now here the Kaiser continues to sail broadside. I am broadside as well, but I'm mainly, again, angling towards the Congo. And the Kaiser, you know, again, he's got the same guns on that ship as I do on the Konig, so they're not the biggest threat. You kind of want to, you got to constantly be analyzing which threat is the big, or which ship is the biggest threat to you, and then angle towards them. And another French cruiser here. This one's not completely broadside, and we actually do miss. I don't find the Konig to be wildly inaccurate. I do have an 11-point Von Hipper in this compared to a 8-point Lee in my New York, but my New York can't hit anything, you know, outside of like 2 kilometers, so the ship's, you know, compared to that is quite comfortable. I have a nose in here. You'll see we're just going to shoot shots right at the tip of the bow where the water meets the ship, and you know, you can punch through shots like that. So even angling, those French cruisers are going to have a hard time against battleships. Our team in this game has been doing a pretty good job. You can see they've kind of cleared out their sectors, and we've established a fairly substantial lead in terms of ships. Congo's still biggest threat to me. I'm not too concerned about this particular cruiser here, so we're just going to try and whittle him down, finish him off, keep the distance between us and the Congo. That ship does become more accurate the closer you get to it. A lot of Japanese battleships are kind of designed to play range. The Congo has very good range, but again, the accuracy on that ship really suffers, so the closer you get to it, the more threatening it becomes, in my opinion. Now here we lose sight of the cruiser before we're able to finish him off, and we don't, looking on the map, we don't have a lot of allies that are potentially going to spot him, so I'm going to slow down, see if he takes like a, you know, hard right for his perspective, turn to the left on mine to become detected, but it doesn't seem like he's going to be. I don't want to be getting shot from both these ships. Again, I'm not massively afraid of that French cruiser at the moment, but you know, we do need to, you want to minimize the amount of ships that can shoot at you at any time, so we're going to try and move forward here, put that island between us and the cruiser, and then we're going to take some shots at the Congo. Now they do have a full health or a nearly full health New York as well, but again, looking at the ship compositions and the relative advantage our team has, I don't feel like a need to really rush this engagement here. We're just going to maintain our angle, minimize the damage that we can take, and it'll allow us to maximize the damage that we put out as the match continues. And there you see we are able to land the Confederate and the high caliber with that salvo. And the Congo, fairly well angled, but again, relatively low armor for the tier. I mean, it is essentially a battle cruiser. It's 254 on that compared to 356, the maximum armor depth at these two ships, so we're able to punch through some shots, and again with the lower armor we're going to be shooting a little bit lower, attempting to hit some citadels. Don't get any there, but we do get a fairly substantial amount of damage with that salvo. Now the sequence is kind of dueling battleships 101. I do have a cruiser that's joined here to support me, but the Congo, if he's angled at anyone, he's angled more towards the cruiser. He needs to be more steeply angled. I mean, he's presenting roughly full broadsides, which allows us to get significant damage per volley. He's able to return fire, but because we're fairly steeply angled, and we could even be slightly more angled than we are currently, but maintaining a nice steep angle like that's going to minimize the incoming damage, and it's just a matter of time before we're able to whittle him down. But let's say that cruiser to our north was a battleship. That's what you want to do with using multiple battleships, is kind of put space between them. Like, he's sailing north, I'd want to continue sailing south. The bigger the gap between you, the bigger the difference in the angles that are firing at this Congo. So he couldn't angle against both ships. So there's a lot of reasons not to bunch up, but creating crossfires against ships is a very important one. And Congo turns all the way around, and then he proceeds to continue to sail broadside. Again, no citadels, but we're getting citadel-esque damage with these, 8, 9, 10k damage salvos. So, whether or not that icon pops up on the screen, it doesn't really matter if the damage is the same. We're going to try and squeeze off one more shot here. You can see that white triangle icon pops up on the screen, though, which indicates that the majority and or all of those shots will hit the island. So you see that one by the distance indicator to the target. Once that triangle icon pops up, it's not really worth shooting the shot in most instances. So I think that's the end of the match from my perspective. Someone else ends up sinking that New York. So Konig, not massively impressive, but for a tier 4 battleship, once it gets upgraded, it's serviceable. It's not the most frustrating ship at the tier, but it's just kind of one. I free XP'd through all the upgrades after playing 1 or 2 trial games just to get a feel for the base ship, and then looking forward to the Bayern and beyond in the line. So that's it for this one. I hope you did enjoy it. If you did, please hit the thumbs up. If you're new to the channel, consider subscribing. There's a lot of World of Warships coming all the time. Questions for me, comments, leave them below. I'd love to hear from you guys. And we'll see y'all later. Alright, peace.